Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Ubuntu Community Team Q&A session. Today, it's just going to be myself and Alan Pope, since everybody else is either having internet connection problems or is traveling today. So we're going to start things off with a few updates of what's happened over the past week or so, and then we'll get to answering any questions you have. So while we're going over those, if you want to type your questions into the IRC chat below the video, if you start them with the word question in all capitals, we'll get a highlight on that so that we don't miss it. If you don't see a chat below your video, then you're on the wrong page. And you should go over to ubuntuonair.com, where we've set up a nice page that's got the video embedded in it, it's got an IRC client embedded in it, and it makes it really easy for you to follow along. So once again, that is ubuntuonair.com. Alan, do you want to start us off with the announcements?
Yeah, so the first one, Daniel sent a mail to the community announced mailing list announcing the next Ubuntu Online Summit as being the 4th to the 6th of November. So the Online Summit is where, well, it's kind of morphed a little bit. It used to be, we used to do Ubuntu Developer Summit in person every 6 months. Then we started doing virtual UDS, and we've been doing these virtual UDSs every 3 months or so. We're now calling them Online Summit because it's not just a developer summit. We've got a community track in there and some other tracks that weren't really developer-oriented, but could be user-oriented or community-oriented stuff. And we recently had an online summit a few weeks ago, and the post that Daniel's put on the community announced mailing list says 4th to the 6th of November. There was a lot of discussion about what would be a good date for this, and that seems to be the right date because 14.10 will be released on October the 23rd, so that's just a week or two after that. It gives us a bit of time to collect our thoughts after the release. It's usually a bit of a manic period leading up to any release of Ubuntu, with all the stuff that we've got going on at the moment, it didn't seem right to have a mid-cycle online summit. I said that we have them like every 3 months or so. It didn't seem right to have another one before the 14.10 release. So we're going to have the next one after the release, which kind of makes sense, really, anyway. I don't think there's anything else I need to say about that. There's some details you can get from the wiki. If you just go to wiki.ubuntu.com/onair, you should find all the details you need. The next piece of news, which I have a personal interest in, that might want to mention, is Ubuntu Mate remix we've kicked off. And this was something that was started only a couple of weeks ago, so it's very early in development. Myself and Martin Wimpress, who is an Arch Linux user and Mate desktop developer. For those of you who don't know, Mate is a desktop that looks and feels very much like Ubuntu did maybe 4 years ago. Maybe if you think of what Ubuntu looked like in 2010, the GNOME version 2 with the 2 panels, one at the top and one at the bottom, that kind of look and feel.
For those of you, I guess on this side of the pond, it's Ubuntu Mate.
Well, you might call it that. The upstream don't call it that. So
they call it Mate upstream.
Yes, that's their, you know. You can call it what you like. I know what you're saying when you say mate. So yeah.
Is it like the whole GNOME thing?
Exactly, Ubuntu, and all of that, Linux. You know, personally speaking, I don't care what you call it. I know what you're talking about. So yeah, so the Mate, spelled M-A-T-E, is the 2-panel desktop, and Martin has been working hard to create a remix of Ubuntu that allows you to run that. So instead of having Unity on the desktop, you have Mate. If you go to ubuntu-mate.org, you can find out all the information, get a download and try it out. It's based on 14.10 at the moment. I think there's a plan to make a 14.04 spin later. In addition to that, the Cinnamon desktop, which is also quite popular with users of Linux Mint. Cinnamon is now in the process of being made available in Utopic 14.10, so that will very soon all be in the archives and built for every architecture. Apparently there's a problem building it for PowerPC, but I don't think there are many PowerPC desktops out there, so that shouldn't affect too many people. So yeah, we're rocking the retro new desktops in the archive now.
Well, that's good. I know the Cinnamon PPA, I think, just stopped updating with new releases, so having those in the archives is going to be a welcome thing for a lot of people who use that. And now you've been involved in the Mate distro, haven't you?
So I've been helping Martin with some of the technical gubbins and interfacing and getting him hooked up with all the right people in the Ubuntu world, because he's an Arch developer. So a lot of this is alien to him. A lot of this Ubuntu related stuff and building ISOs and stuff was new to him. So yeah, I've been hooking him up with the right people to talk to, and yeah, it's pretty good. It's worth a look if you're into that, or if you have old machines that don't have decent 3D hardware and you need a desktop to run on it, and yeah, give it a try. We had one other thing that I think you know more about than I do. David asked us to mention about the fact that you can now submit scopes to the store.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's fully supported at this point or not, but that's going to be the way that you can install third-party scopes on your phone. So they'll be installable just like apps. The developers will be able to use click packaging to package them up and send them up to the store. Like I said, though, I don't know if that's all fully functional yet or not.
Okay, I have seen there is a scope in the store, and I did try installing it. I don't know if that's all been fixed. There was a bug with it recently.
It was SoundCloud, I think, and I think that was an update to one of the pre-installed scopes.
Ah, okay.
But there isn't currently a UI to manage your installed scopes and remove scopes like you have for apps. So, but that is all coming. That's going to be available soon. I'm just not sure entirely when. And then we also announced this past week that we crossed the 100,000 downloads mark in the store. So for those of you who haven't read the article, the new Click Store is able to track downloads of Click packages and who they're going to, which lets us offer some nice features like being able to, in the future, click on a link on your desktop browser to find an app in the store. You click install, and then it pushes that down to your phone, just like you can in Android. And also, if you get a new device or reflash your device, you can have it automatically reinstall any apps that you had currently installed. And as part of that, we're able to track individual download numbers. And so a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, I announced that we had 100,000 people, unique people who have downloaded something from the store. And then this past week, we crossed the 100,000 things being downloaded from the store. So this is a combination of new app installs and app update installs. But it's still a significant number of downloads for a platform that doesn't have any official phones on sale yet. Everybody who's downloading these is either doing it from a flashed device like we've got, or the emulator. And the emulator's only been usable for the past couple of months or so when we got the x86 emulator. So there's probably quite a few people using Ubuntu on actual devices right now, which is encouraging news for us.
Yeah, some of us have. We have to do some testing of Ubuntu on our reference devices, so I can show you the family. We have. I don't know if this one's charged up. Oh, it is. So we have the Nexus 10, the Nexus 7, and the Nexus 4. And yeah, So yeah, I've been installing all of those apps on many of these devices and testing them out and making sure they work. And yeah, it's good fun trying out all these new apps that are appearing in the store. I don't think I count for too many of the 100,000 downloads, but I certainly account for some.
As far as I know, they are downloads per person. So if you installed the same app on all 3 devices, that might only count as 1 download.
Right.
Cool. I'd have to double check with Martin on that to be sure, though.
Awesome. Okay, we've got some questions coming up. Do you want to start with those?
Yep. Let's see. The first one is from Bree. Can we get an official launcher bar that can be moved to the bottom? Docky is nice, but I do prefer official and more stable functionality. The Unity launcher is going to stay on the side. That's part of the design of Unity itself, and you see it on the phones too. I mean, this comes across. You've got the launcher on the side on the phone, just like you have on the desktop, and having it always in the same place, no matter the device, is really handy. It really helps people understand and make it intuitive how to use Unity. So no matter what Unity desktop you're on or what Unity device you're on, you always know that your launchers are going to be on the left-hand side. You always know that your indicators are going to be in the top. You always know how the dash is going to work. So that kind of consistency across devices and across form factors is really important to us, and that's why the launcher is going to stay where it's at right now.
Yeah, and there's as you mentioned, there's other software like Docky, and there's various other panels that you can put on your system, and they're available in the repository. Install them if you want them. I've seen plenty of people posting screenshots of their Unity desktop where they have a launcher on the left and they have a dock along the bottom of the screen. That's perfectly doable.
Yeah, and as far as I know, those are pretty stable. I mean, they've been around for ages.
Yeah,
even before
Docky's been around for years. Yeah. Cool.
All right. Akkar says, will Ubuntu Desktop.next be all Qt based, or would it still have some elements from GNOME, for example, Nautilus or files? So it will be the Qt Unity H shell. It will be the Qt QML core apps that we've been developing. So for your specific example, it probably will not have Nautilus because we do have a converged file manager that was developed as part of the core apps project. There is going to be some of the GNOME backend stuff because we still use a lot of that on the phone even. So for example, the Evolution data server, which is used as the backend for the Evolution email client, is also used as the backend for the calendar app that we have on the phone, and the clock app uses it to store alarms. So there's still a lot of things from the GNOME project that are going to be in Unity 8 and this new temporary Unity Next distro. I'm just not sure about actual graphical apps. There is work on GTK on a GTK backend for Mir, so it should be possible to run GTK apps on that desktop. But obviously, we've been developing these converged apps. We really want to start giving them some really good heavy testing, especially on a desktop environment. So we're going to be pushing those more, I think, than the ones that have already proven themselves in that environment.
Yeah, those core apps that Mike mentioned, like File Manager, Terminal, Clock, Calendar, Weather, Calculator, RSS Reader, and so on. Those apps were primarily, their primary target was to work on the phone, but we worked with the developers to make them all work well on tablets and desktops as well. So one code base, the converged view being one code base, one application, for example, the File Manager, works on phone, tablet, and desktop. And so the Unity Next ISO image that you've seen is Unity 8 on Mir with, for example, the File Manager app that we developed with the community. It's had way more testing on the phone and the tablet than it has on the desktop, because we've all got phones and we all use these apps on a daily basis. Whereas because they're not default apps on Ubuntu, then there's not a huge user base of desktop users using those apps. So that's one of the reasons why the Unity Next ISO is there, is so that people can test out those new generation of apps, and we can figure out if they work well or if there are any problems, and if there are any issues that we haven't identified on the phone that only manifest themselves on the desktop, or use cases that on the desktop that we haven't taken care of, then we can find those out via that Unity Next ISO.
All right, do you want to take the next one?
I've lost track of which one is next.
Chloe Wolfie Girl, I believe, is the next one.
She's asked like 4, so...
Well, the first one, then.
Well, okay. So, yes, I found it. Have you read Brian Lunduke's article about Ubuntu being Linux tablets' last hope? If so, do you feel that's correct? And are you focusing hard on the tablet, or more just desktop and phone? I haven't seen that article. I will look it up. So I can't really pass judgment on what conclusions he has in his article. In terms of focusing hard on tablet or just desktop and phone, at the moment, the primary focus, everyone is working super hard on the phone. I think we've discussed in previous Q&As that we've got upcoming deadlines to get the phone image done in order to go to the manufacturers for them to build the final images for devices. So we've spoken before about BQ and Meizu, who are making devices with us. And so our focus at the moment is very heavily on the phone. I waved a couple of tablets around, so we do have images for the Nexus 10 and the Nexus 7 tablet devices, or phablet, or whatever you want to call them. But our primary focus at the moment is the phone. Once that's out the way, we may move on to the converged view of tablets and desktops.
And we are still working on expanding features on there. So, for example, the tablets have this side stage, which is being built in both Unity 8 and also in Mirror to add support for that. So there is still ongoing development targeting the tablet specifically. But we are on a schedule to deliver a phone, so that is our most urgent focus right now. I have seen this sentiment expressed before, and I'm not sure if this was where Brian was coming from, but in response to the KDE Vivaldi tablet, them ending development of that.
Right.
And I think it's important to remember that that project wasn't just about getting KDE on tablets. That was about building completely open and affordable hardware to run it on. So I don't think that was... You shouldn't see that as Linux on tablets failing or KDE on tablets failing. This was a hardware effort, kind of like what we did with the Ubuntu Edge, only they actually built prototypes and were trying to actually bring it to fruition, and it just didn't work out for them. But I don't think that means that KDE and Plasma Active are not still a viable option for tablets. They just need to find a partner, which is what we're doing. Obviously with Ubuntu, we're not trying to build our own hardware. We're working with people who are good at that and have those logistics already set up.
So the next question is from Not Much. When are the phones coming out in the USA? They're coming out in 1 month. Well, actually, they're not coming out in 1 month. I'm not sure where.
1 month. So
if they're coming out in 1 month, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Because it's not ready yet. So no, they're not coming out in 1 month. We've said this year, and the plan is for our partners to deliver phones this year, and we're working hard to deliver the software to them to deliver phones this year. It's really up to them when they make handsets available on the market. We've talked a lot about our RTM date, the release to manufacture date, which is very soon, and within the next month or so. But that doesn't mean that you should expect to walk into a store anywhere in the world and find an Ubuntu phone within the next month. That's just our initial delivery date to the handset manufacturers. I apologise if you can hear aeroplanes flying around. There's an air show on in my hometown this month, and they're practicing at the moment. So sorry about that.
And you're inside on a computer and not outside watching?
No, I have a webcam set up, pointing out, recording constantly the planes flying over. Of course.
Nice. DVRing the air show.
Yes, it's actually taking a picture every second, and then compressing them down to video and uploading them to YouTube so I can watch them later.
Yeah. So yeah, to answer specifically about phones coming to the USA, our partners, as we've already announced, are in Spain and China. Those are the markets that they've been targeting. I know Meizu at least has publicly announced plans to expand into the USA, but we still don't know at this point what the phones are going to be capable of. The USA, I gather, has some wonky cellular frequencies that we use that the rest of the world doesn't. So it's best to wait until they're actually announced and made available to purchase to see if they will work in the US. As far as I know, they should be available to purchase online, so if they'll work in the US, you should be able to order them from somewhere and get them shipped to you. I don't think you're going to find them in retail, though.
No, not yet. And again, this is what people have got to remember is we're making the software. We've got a partnership with handset manufacturers, but we're making the software, and it's up to them when they announce and the marketing behind their hardware, and the regions in which they sell it is entirely down to them. We don't control that. Okay.
Next question from Chloe again. I heard that Ubuntu Touch is going to be greatly customizable. I haven't seen too much customizability yet. How customizable will it be on a scale of iPhone to Cyanogen?
I'm not sure. I don't think we've said it's highly customizable. I said we've said it's open, which means that yeah, you can hack around with it, and you could replace, for example, the launcher with something else, or you could, replace the indicators with something else, or you could add whatever apps you want, and connect over SSH and do all the kinds of like hacky things you want to, and replace component parts with other parts. We have a level of customization in our desktop that we've designed in, but there's no reason why you couldn't rip pieces out and replace them with other pieces, which is exactly what CyanogenMod do, and what iOS for a long time hasn't let you do, but with newer versions is making that a little bit easier. So being able to replace the keyboard, for example, on iOS is something you're going to be able to do in iOS 8, I understand, and adding more widgets and so on. So yeah, there's some level of customizability, but I don't think that's our greatest selling point. The fact that we're open is our greatest selling point.
Right, and our approach to customizability right now is based around the dash and scopes. So instead of saying, yeah, you can replace Unity 8 with a custom launcher like you can on CyanogenMod, what we're saying is you can add or remove or reorganize what scopes you have on there. So it'll come with the default apps, music, videos. Then you can add on whatever you want. You can put a weather scope on there that's always accessible. You can stick a Reddit scope on there and have that easily searchable. And that's going to be available both to users and to OEMs and carriers. So one of our focuses has been allowing the OEMs and the carriers to provide this customization without having to fork. And you see, Android phones from different manufacturers look different and work different because they've all ripped out the stock Android launcher and replaced it with their own home screens, and things all just work a little bit differently. And that's had another unintentional side effect of when there's a new version of Android out, it's up to those phone companies and carriers to update their own software based on that and get it out to your phones. And that's a big cost to them, and most of them don't want to do it. And that's why you get phones that are stuck in old versions of Android. So what we're doing is we're providing these scopes and saying, okay, you can customize the default experience with these. You can add your own services or data that you want in there by default, but you're not touching the underlying foundations of Ubuntu, so that when we put out a new version of it, they can just update automatically. Their scopes will continue to work as they had before, and we can get a new version of the system out to your phone much faster than Android. So a lot of the times when we talk about customizability, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about making it easier for carriers and OEMs to customize without breaking it.
Right, I was more talking about it from a hacker's perspective of mucking around with a phone that, someone like a CyanogenMod user might do.
Yeah, anyone who's comfortable with the packaging and with code can go in and do whatever they want with it, because of course it is all open, it is all free software. All right, next question also from Chloe. With the porting, and last week you talked about porting, how do you plan to keep it so that if someone ports Ubuntu Touch to a phone, such as the Xperia, that they will be able to get the latest updates without breaking? So this goes back to what I was just talking about. We already actually have layers of images. So for the phones that we support, we provide one Ubuntu image, and then we provide multiple smaller device images, and then we layer those one on top of the other to support a specific phone. So for the Nexus 4, you would get the device-specific image with those drivers and everything to bring up that hardware, and then the generic Ubuntu image on top of that. And so that's what we would do for community ports also, is they would have to provide that smaller device image for their port, and then the rest of Ubuntu itself would sit on top of that, and they don't need to mess with it. And if you're interested in that, Daniel Holdock on our team is the guy who is spearheading the porting efforts and support for those guys. And he would know better how that's working. And in fact, we just had a discussion earlier this week in our team about things we need to improve on the porting guide and bringing it up to date, and continue to provide good support for them.
Okay, next question. Where is John O'Bacon? Any links to him, like YouTube or Google+? So, for those who don't know, who came here and expected to see the gorgeous John O'Bacon and got us to, you'll find John O'Bacon at johnoBacon.org. He was the community manager for Ubuntu, but he left to do amazing things with XPRIZE. And I think he still does his own Q&As. You'd have to check with him when they are, because I don't know.
Yeah, he's moved those since we've continued in his old time slot. He's now doing his own personal Q&As on Thursday afternoons or evenings European time. If you go, it's on his blog. It's like johnobacon.org/live or something. Should have the information there. And there you can find out all about the XPRIZE stuff that he's been working on lately.
Cool. Next question. From Not Much. Who will be the next community manager?
So stay tuned for that announcement. It should, I think, be coming out this week, probably from Rick Spencer, our VP of Engineering, who's been the guy who's had to decide that. So it will be announced soon. The decision has been made. It just hasn't been published yet.
Roger Carter asks, when can I buy an Ubuntu phone in England? Thanks, guys, for keeping the Q&A going. So I don't know if you heard earlier, we mentioned that's really up to the handset manufacturers. The stock answer that we always give is this year, end of this year, you should be able to buy a handset. But we don't control all the regions in which the handset manufacturers will be selling those handsets. So BQ are based in Spain, in Europe, and Meizu are based in China. Those are our current two partners. And so by the end of the year, they will be selling them somewhere in the world, and you'll hear about it as soon as we know.
Yeah. It will not be before the end of August, because that's when we give them the final code image and say, okay, this is what we want you to ship on the phones. And then from there, they've got to make sure that it works properly and all the drivers are stable and everything. So sometime after that. But this year.
Okay, next question
from Gordon. Is there any timeline for being able to buy a retail Ubuntu phone? So you'll be able to buy these, I think, online. I don't know when or where they will actually be available in stores to purchase. I would expect them to be available online to start, though.
Yeah, those are discussions we're having, but soon.
All right, 11 asks, when will Compilation replace Software Center? Because on 14.04, using it is a treacherous experience. So if you use the phones or tablets, you'll notice that we don't have a Software Center app. We have a scope instead, which lets you search and browse, and very soon we'll let you purchase apps as well. So I think the plan is to try and make that work for the desktop also when we switch to Unity 8. But of course, that's all still in the future. If somebody can come up with a good use case for why we need a standalone app for that, or can provide a good app for that, then things may change. But I think right now the plan is to focus on the app scope for that.
And just to be clear, we're not planning on replacing Software Center in 14.04. So if you're currently running 14.04 and you have problems with Software Center, the best thing to do is to, as always, provide feedback to the developers via bug reports, or if you have performance improvements that someone has developed, then maybe they can be proposed as patches. But we're not planning on replacing that. You can, of course, make changes to your system. For example, I know a lot of people install GDebi on 14.04 and use that for installing randomly downloaded debs, rather than clicking on a deb on a website and that opening Software Center. They use GDebi, which is a lot faster and lighter than using Software Center. And some other people have mentioned another one called AppGrid, but as I understand it, that's not free software as such, but there is a PPA with it in, I believe. So yeah, there are alternatives, but we don't plan on doing anything major to replace Software Center in 14.04.
Or 14.10.
Or indeed in 14.10. Chloe asks, I feel Chloe's asked enough questions, we can use first name terms now. Chloe says, will there ever be another Ubuntu Edge? Who knows? Well, it depends what you mean by will there be another Ubuntu Edge. If you mean will there be another crowd-funded phone running Ubuntu, who knows? Will that specific phone, the Ubuntu Edge, come back? Probably not. Could another handset manufacturer make something which is as beautiful as that was with the hardware specs and the possibility of it being a desktop computer? Yeah, absolutely. That could and may and probably will happen.
Yeah. So at the end of the Edge campaign, Mark did say that he still saw a lot of potential in crowdfunding device evolution. And so there may be some more of those. The interesting thing about the Ubuntu Edge, though, is even if we ran another campaign right now for the same specs, we wouldn't be trying to crowdfund a huge, step forward in phone manufacturing anymore, because all of the stuff that we were going to put on there is already starting to come. I mean, I saw just today the iPhone 6 is going to have this sapphire glass displays that we were trying to pioneer with the Ubuntu Edge. I know some of the new super phones that are coming out, like from Meizu's octa-core, have 128 gigs of internal storage available. So a lot of the things that we were trying to push the industry forward on are coming. They're just coming, a year later than we would have wanted with this campaign. But now that we're a year out from that, it's all on track right now. So we all kind of won by the Ubuntu Edge losing.
So next question is from Levin, who says Ubuntu versus Windows 98. Go.
Well, Windows 98, of course.
Well, of course. Next question from The Best.
Levin might not be serious about this.
Yeah, and just in case Mark's watching, I was joking. The Best asks, how long does it take to compile Ubuntu? That's a brilliant question. And when you think about it, there's lots of bits of Ubuntu that need building, that need compiling. And you can actually watch that happening in real time. If you go to, I think it's launchpad.
You're typing, so it muted you.
Sorry. So if you go to launchpad.net/builders, you can see the build of Ubuntu and also stuff that's in PPAs happening in real time. So we have a farm of build machines that build Ubuntu. And you could probably go and get the package listing from a stock install of Ubuntu with something like dpackage -- get selections, and there's your package list. And you could query Launchpad and find out how long each of those packages took to build, and then add all of that up, and that's how long Ubuntu took to build. Then add in the time it takes to build the ISO image, which is, I think, no more than probably about 10 minutes to 20 minutes, something like that. And that's how long it takes to build.
It takes about, on my new one, it takes about 10 minutes. On my old laptop, it would take like 30 minutes to build the ISO.
Right. Yeah, if you throw it to the cloud, it's faster. Everything's faster in the cloud. But yeah, so I'll leave that as an exercise for you, because I don't want to do that. But it's
also going to depend on what you mean by Ubuntu. I mean, what ships on the CDs and on the DVDs is only a small portion of what we have in the archives. So in order to build every package in the archive, you're talking about orders of magnitude more than just building what goes onto the default image.
Right. And then there's building the various architectures. So we build for i386, we build for AMD64, ARM, and now PowerPC as well. And some of those take a very long time. For example, like building Qt 5 on an AMD64 machine, it takes a while. But building Qt 5, all of Qt on an ARM machine, takes an awful long time. So yeah, it's a lot of computing power, and that's one of the things people don't realize is that Canonical sponsors the Ubuntu project in terms of hiring a bunch of developers to work on the thing, and sponsoring events, and paying for buildings for some of these people to work in, and all the other bits and bobs that go with having staff. But also there's a few data centers around the world with loads of hardware in it for building the stuff, compiling the software. And there's also PPAs. Those PPAs that people in the community use, and we use internally as well. There's a load of PPAs building all kinds of things, like daily builds of Firefox and daily builds of Chromium and LibreOffice and all the little things that you add from a PPA. That's all being built on that hardware that's in the data center, and and Canonical pays for that stuff, which I think is pretty awesome, really, and has done for the last 10 years. So.
And not just pays for the equipment and the power, but also there's a lot of maintenance that goes into that, and our IS staff is responsible for maintaining those boxes and those build services and keeping all of that running.
Right.
Yeah,
and then once
there's
it's
a lot
built,
of infrastructure cost in it.
Once it's built, obviously we have a lovely array of mirrors around the world that are maintained and managed by third parties, like people in the community who want to mirror, and ISPs and companies. But yeah, I was just talking specifically about the building side of things. We're running out of time. Should we move on with the questions?
We are. Yes, I think Chloe's got some more for us.
Does the mail notification thing display just message notifications, or will it be more on the lines of Android and store all notifications there? Yes, is the answer.
I don't think it will be all notifications. So, like Android, it'll but
message.
Yeah, anything message related. So it'll do email, it'll do Facebook and Twitter messages and SMS messages. But I don't think you're going to get like updates available notifications like you do in Android. There's several other things that Android puts in its notification drop-down that aren't necessarily messages. But we will have indicators for those things. They just won't be in the envelope one. So I know we're getting a sync indicator, which will be powered by the download manager. So if you've got an app that's running a download in the background, you'll have that in the indicator, and you can see the status of it quickly.
So we have another question with IRC nickname, which I cannot pronounce. Period. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. After you're done making the software for phone manufacturers, are there any plans to build a community around ports for existing phones? We talked about this last week a bit, and we also mentioned it earlier on in this this video. We have a porting guide which is maintained mostly by Daniel Holbach and Ricardo Salvetti and Oliver Graver and Ricardo Mendoza and a few other people from the community as well. Unfortunately, as we've been so totally focused on getting these phone images out, the porting guide has suffered a little bit. It's not been as well maintained as it could be. What I'd like to see is, after we get over this bump of getting the image done for RTM, I'd like us to put some focus into that, and it'd be great to pull some community people together who are also interested in porting to various devices. I'm trying to get that guide fleshed out so that it's accurate, up to date description of how you would port Ubuntu to other devices. I mean, we already have the porting guide. It's just not had as much love as we'd have liked. That's all.
And we're also not planning on creating a new community just for porting Ubuntu to existing phones. What we're doing is there's already a huge community of people porting Android to different phones and new versions of Android and the Cyanogen mod version of Android. So we've been working closely with them, with the XDA community. They were the source for a lot of our community ports. We sponsored the last XDA developer convention in Miami, and we're sponsoring the one upcoming in in the UK. So we're working closely with that community to bring Ubuntu ports to different phones. And in fact, if anybody's going to be there at the XDA DevCon in the UK, Alan will be there also, so you can stop by and say hi to him.
That's true. Okay, we've got loads more questions. Will Ubuntu Touch, this is from Levin, will Ubuntu Touch get a web page like Google Play which allows you to browse and install apps from the desktop? Yes.
It will. It's actually currently being worked on. It's just not ready to put out in production yet, but it should be coming soon.
Chloe's asked, will Canonical make an app like CyanogenMod for the phone to help people install Ubuntu Touch on an Android phone? Well, we kind of have that. It's a script. It's a bunch of shell commands. The big one being Ubuntu Device Flash. There's nothing stopping anyone else wrapping that up in a GUI, as people often do in the community, and that would be a great thing to throw in the Phablet Team Tools PPA if someone wants to maintain it. I think that would be really awesome. A simple little graphical tool. Actually, I think Rick Spencer was talking about making such an app himself to do things like flashing the phone and also doing other kind of things remotely to the phone, like enabling networks and other kind of things that you might want to do remotely from your desktop PC.
Somebody had one. I remember a year or so ago playing with one. Somebody wrote it, just a GUI front end to the Phablet Flash tool back then.
Oh, cool.
So that may have been updated to Ubuntu Device Flash by now. And of course, we also have an Android app that will let you dual boot Ubuntu Touch on your Android device.
Not much asks, because Steam has dominance in the desktop gaming space, would you recommend gaming developers to just use Steam instead of the Ubuntu software store for games only?
Well, it doesn't have to be an either-or thing.
No, and not being a developer, it's hard for me to determine what would be a good thing for developers to do, not being a game developer. But from conversations I've had with developers, in general, they want as many people to use their software as possible, their games as possible. So you want to go where the audience is. And the audience is in Steam, they're in Desura, they're in various other online stores, including the Ubuntu Software Center. And we do get stuff to the Software Center all the time. So yeah, I would say put your software everywhere.
Yeah, put it where your users are. If you're making a Linux-only game, though, you're probably better off putting it in something that's where your Linux users are going to look for it. You don't want to go in just Steam if it'll work on any Ubuntu user's desktop.
Right. We've got 2 minutes left.
All right.
Bree says, I noticed there were new icons for the Ubuntu mobile, and he posted a link to Engadget article from November last year. These are fantastic. Will we see these on the desktop soon? Ooh, good question.
I don't know. In fact, we've been trying to get somebody from the design team on one of these. Hopefully
I know, but
next.
they keep being allowed to go on holiday, which is just,
Yeah. Can't believe we let them do that.
So yeah, we will have someone from design on, and we can ask them all kinds of design-related questions soon. Maybe next week. I'm not sure.
Right.
Should we take one last question?
Albert says, Windows announced that Win9 will fit any hardware it runs on. Is that affecting Ubuntu? Will Ubuntu get that convergence before Windows? So it's not going to affect us, I think. They've now are more in line with the plans that we've been working on for a while now. So that really just kind of solidifies that we were on the right path to begin with. I don't know when they're going to come out with it, though. Convergence is one of those things that sounds easy when you first think about it, but when you actually get down into it and you discover all the little details that it takes to make it work, it gets quite a bit more complicated.
Yeah, convergence is hard. Let's go shopping.
Yeah, because it's not just building the software. There's a lot of design work that has to go into deciding, okay, how can we have one concept that works well on both devices? So instead of saying, okay, you've got a desktop here and then you've got Metro there, and they're totally different things, for convergence, you need to have one thing on both, which is what we've done with Unity. I was just showing the launcher and indicators on my phone. It's the same concept as on the desktop, but there's a lot of design that had to go into getting us these building blocks that would work that way. And I don't think Microsoft has that yet. And with that, we are out of time. Sorry we couldn't get to all of the questions, but we will be back again next week. Same time, same day, same channel. So come back again with your questions and get them in early so that they can get answered. Thank
Awesome.
you, Alan.
Apologies for the. That's why I muted myself, because my phone. One of the downsides with having multiple devices is when they all ring at the same time when you have a meeting.
Yeah, so Calendar Sync works with your Google Calendar, and you get a nice harp sound to remind you of any meetings that are coming up, of which Alan has quite a few.
Yeah,
and he has that synced now to all devices.
Yeah, so that's a good point to wrap it up there, I think.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.